Welcome to the December. Well, I guess we're recording on the 12th, whenever this episode comes out, either the 13th or the 14th, but the 16th episode of the Zooch and Wilde College Football Podcast. Zooch, how are we doing?
Doing good. Ready for Saturday and bowl games to start. As meaningless
I'm
as they
I'm
may be.
eh, Bowl games are never meaningless. I am of like the 2001 mindset where oh my gosh, Iowa State gets to play Stanford. Like this matchup never happens.
I'll put
And
it to you that how I feel about bowl games is, do you remember, and I don't think they really do it anymore, but do you remember that 2010 to 2014 or so, ESPN would have the commercial for bowl season and they would start hyping up and it'd always be like Nelly singing some song that I'll send it to you after. That's what I always think of when I think of bowl season. And it'd just be Nelly and a band, and he'd be like,
oh
I'm gonna when I win the game, I'm gonna look at my mama and tell her I love her. Stuff. It'd be like the
yeah, yeah,
cheesiest thing, the
yeah, your
cheesiest
mom's gonna
stuff
be real
ever. But
proud. Yeah, your mom's gonna be real proud about the Fenway Bowl. Yeah, real proud about the Fenway Bowl. But a lot of stuff to cover. Didn't have a show last week because we did Settle Down Award Show. Thank you for everyone listening. Zooch was able to pop in a little bit and send some funny stuff. We were able to send some funny stuff. It was good to talk with some of the other Settle Down folks. So make sure you check that out. But that's enough self advertisement, Zooch, unless you wanted to add something.
oh no, it was a fun time, funny watching everybody on there give each other crap, and just a good seeing friends get together and just
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people didn't understand half of what they were talking about, but it made us laugh. So
Yeah. And from that, I wanted to say thank you for all of you guys who are listening to this show every week, whether it be in the podcast or on the clips on Instagram. I know some of the people have been using that, which is perfectly fine. There's some funny clips out there. I hope my Cam Ward one gets deleted from the page as soon as possible. But yeah, we appreciate you guys listening. And I got this hat on for a reason. The fellas at the Sickos Committee, great Twitter page. Make sure you go and give them a follow. Probably my favorite college football page on Twitter. But I have this hat because we haven't reacted yet to championship weekend that happened 2 weekends ago in the playoff seeding reaction. Alabama, they did it, man. They screwed it all up.
they did.
They screwed it all up, and it
They
was
did.
awesome.
I mean, it was a good. That was you could hear the hurt in Gary Danielson's voice, and just knowing that this was the last time they're going to get the SEC. It being such a big game, a
Yeah,
real I thought it was a really good game. It was
it was
yeah,
a
I
good
guess
game.
Alabama controlled it, but it felt like at times all right, here comes I never counted Georgia out. I guess even when Alabama got the ball back, I was like, I might count Georgia out. Yeah, they could get the ball. I mean, they've done it for basically 3 years now. I'm not going to count them
Mhm.
out, but just going from that to and I know the Big Ten is going to be a little different this next year, and you might not have Iowa or whoever from the Big Ten West getting in and just getting I mean, a quarter into that Big Ten game, you knew Iowa wasn't going to score. You could just tell.
Iowa didn't score an entire point the single Big Ten championship game. Everyone who put the Peoples over at .5 lost. That's pathetic. That was the most. Iowa needs to be big. That should be a case study of how to why the conference system is dying and why leagues like the NBA pretty much don't even have divisions anymore. It's pretty much
Yeah.
just full seating on the conferences. But yeah, the Big Ten championship game was a blowout. Texas made it interesting too. They won their game. Oklahoma State. That was did that game kind of feel like when the varsity team scrimmaged the JV team a little bit? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, but it was.
Just I don't think Oklahoma State was ever that good. I think they are a perfectly mediocre. This is the same team that got killed by South Alabama, got killed by
Mhm.
UCF. It's not
They're a team that plays to their potential. I think they should be proud of their year this year. It
yeah,
for
they
where they
were
started. And you beat
yeah, they weren't even going to make
Oklahoma.
a bowl game at the beginning, and they beat Oklahoma. They squeaked out a few wins that they needed and got there and met their maker.
Yeah. Pac-12 championship game. That was a pretty
It was
decent
great.
one. I liked Michael Penix. Although did you see all like the Matt Leinart? He like tweeted out or like Instagram like the sad RIP Pac-12 video, and you could tell nothing. There was not a single soul in America who was more just like sad, like not upset, not pissed, just sad about the Pac-12 dying than Matt Leinart. That guy lives for the Pac-12. Him and Bill Walton, those two guys just live for the Pac-12.
Well,
But
I kind of feel bad for him because I feel like the Pac-12 has really struggled lately of making their league like must watch. And when he was at like when those USC teams were, I remember growing up, they were like you wanted to watch. Like I hated them, but you wanted to. They were must watch. And here recently, like I know they've had Caleb Williams, and I know Oregon's been pretty good, and Washington's been good the past couple years, but I think they've struggled in making like promoting themselves
mhm.
in a lot of ways. Like I don't care what anyone
No,
says.
they did it to
Washington was
themselves.
great this year. Oregon was great this year. The only teams that people really, really wanted to watch, other than like us who like just love watching the sport, were the Coach Prime Colorado games. Like people
Yeah.
tuned in because he and the media, like the media helped him, but he did a good job of make it you wanted to watch them. Like you wanted to like people they got a game against Colorado State on ABC. Granted, that was
Yeah,
partially there
I
wasn't
saw
a lot of great
Colorado
games
State
that week, but
that game alone bumped Colorado State up to the most watched on average group of 5 team just from that one game.
right.
I
And
saw
it's
Boise
not
State
gonna
Twitter getting real into the analytics of it. They go, "Well, technically Navy got the Notre Dame boost and the USF got the Bama boost. It
yeah, it's
actually is
like
Boise State." It's like, well, Tulane still exists. Boise had a fine viewing year, but
right. And it's just, you have to make yourself like I don't know, like you just have to promote yourself. And the Big Ten does a pretty good job. Like the Big Ten and the SEC do a good job. Granted, they are like more favored than the other conferences,
yeah.
but still, like USC. I don't remember hardly seeing anything on them. Like, hey, we have it. Like, I'm sorry, but your
Once they
first game of the
started
season should not be on
on
the
the Pac-12
Pac-12
network.
network when you have
Well,
the
that's what
returning
they
Heisman winner.
that's why we can talk about the death of the Pac-12 all day. I could write a 12-page paper on the death of the Pac-12. It was the media rights deal was just too poor. It was too poor. But I mean, let's talk of that. I want to get initial reaction for the playoff seedings. Do you have a problem with
Okay,
it?
in some ways, yes, but in the way that my thing with the college football playoff, as it was the past few years, is they never had a thing of if you win your conference, you're in, right? Like if you win your
Hmm.
conference in any other sport or your division,
You
you
can be
make the
in.
playoffs, right? NFL, you can be 7-9 like the Seahawks that year and win the division, you go to the playoffs. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if there is three other 12-4 teams in the NFC South or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You host a home playoff game. Their whole thing is we're going to put the four best teams in, and that is completely up to the people on the committee of who they think
Well,
the
yeah,
four.
because if
It's not there's no basis of oh yeah, like Georgia's probably better than
I
FSU
think,
or Alabama's probably better,
yeah,
but
my opinion on it is that this has been a poor system for about a decade now, and it finally bit them in the butt.
yeah,
I mean, there have been a couple years where it's like we should have got in, but like there was like that one thing missing, and like the majority of the country and fans could be like, yeah, but this is like, come on now, and then their fans would be like, okay, it's been a bad system. I love the video of Mike Leach like circulating where he just like goes on about how like every other football system from high school to NAIA to D2 to the professional level all runs a playoff system except for Division 1 FBS. But it
right.
finally bit him in the butt. Although Florida State, I feel so bad because I'm
Oh,
not
I do too.
upset. I'm not as upset as but I'm kind of mad at myself because I'm not as upset as I should be. Because I think
Right.
deep down I know Alabama deserved to get in. You win the SEC and your only loss is to a fellow playoff team because I think Texas deserved to get in.
Right.
It's three
What
teams for two spots. It's this year it finally bit him in the butt. I think everyone finally saw that this was a bad idea. Although I do think it's funny that it was the Alliance that blocked it being a 12-team playoff this year. So the Alliance of the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac 12, the ACC literally shot themselves in the foot. And what I think is going to be a snowball from this is just a prediction of mine. But the ACC is in trouble because you're going to have a school like Florida State going, man, we can go undefeated and beat an SEC ranked SEC team in our preseason, still play a super tough schedule, and we don't get in. What's the point of being in this
And,
conference? Like what?
and it's
Like the ACC needs to get it together, and like they need to do what they can to keep Florida State happy because Florida State, I guarantee you, after this is wanting to do.
that, and not only is I would almost understand it if it was like NC State or Syracuse or Wake Forest or someone who went undefeated and they didn't get in, right? I'd be like, I still think it's kind of stupid that you can
It's one
win
of
a
the bigger
power phase.
brands.
But Florida State, basically since Bobby Bowden got there, which was 70s or however long, they have been basically a premier program since at least
The
the
late 80s,
mid
probably.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had a couple down years, but I think they're one of like two schools who in like the last 40 years have gone to like 38 bowl games. I think they missed a bowl game twice, maybe even only one time, but I think it's two, maybe two, maybe three, 1 to 3 times. That's not a lot. They have pretty much always, with the exception of like the Willie Taggart years and the last couple years under Bobby Bowden, been a top 25 team, have 3 national it's not like I said, they're Wake Forest who have never really won anything in the history of their program, and they're like, it's like a random year that they're 12-0. Florida State, I think they won like their last 8 games of last year too, didn't they? Something like they have like a pretty
They
long.
ended the year good last year. They beat ranked teams this year. And this is where it's like I don't really like my opinion is that like Florida State should have got in. Also, I'm sorry, Florida State fans, you can't just sue the College Football Playoff Committee because you didn't like it. That's a waste of money. I think that's like a money laundering scheme by some alumni who needs to like legitimize like black market like iguanas that he's smuggling in the Florida.
Speaking of Florida State fans, I saw a thing where Donald Trump said that it was Ron DeSantis' fault that they didn't get him. And I've seen at least 6 Florida State fans who are like, he brings up a good point.
Yes, he said Ron DeSanctimonious did not ask for a revote.
Right. He turned that into, we're not going to get off on that tangent, but it is fun. I don't care what you think on any of those people. That is absurdly funny that he blamed Ron DeSantis.
We had an ex-president calling out the governor of Florida because Florida State didn't make the playoff. That honestly probably could have rivaled meme of the year, Butch Jones kneeling, if it would have happened sooner.
Right.
The former
it was
president
great.
of
I
the
laughed
country.
for 45 minutes at the whatever this thing is called, looking at that.
I also totally agree. I did see some Florida State fans go, yeah, what can you do at Ron DeSantis? They were like adding the governor. It's like, what do you want him to do? Oh my!
It was
goodness.
great.
But,
I was dying laughing.
Yeah, I was dying laughing. I feel bad for Florida State fans. You deserve to get in. Alabama, you deserve to get in. Texas, you beat Alabama, so I think you deserve to get in too. And then you have 2 undefeated teams who have kind of been good the whole year. It was a bummer. It's 5 good teams for 4 spots. It's kind of where I'm going to leave it at. It stinks for everyone. We're not going to have this problem next year, but makes talking about it a lot interesting. We're not going to have these conversations next year because all the teams are going to get in. Next year, we're going to be arguing like, well, who should get in, Arizona or Mizzou? Like, that's not as fun.
And that's the point. And like that to me is, I understand in college football you don't want to have a 68 team playoff like the college basketball. But at that point, when you're like a 2 or 3 loss team and you're saying you should get in, then there are actual reasons why you, like, to me, there's a big difference in arguing if you should be the 12 seed or whatever, however they're going to work out that seeding, versus we went undefeated and did, like, there's a huge gap in those two. To me, a team who's 9-3 or 10-2 is kind of like a 18-13 bubble team in college basketball. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe you should have gotten in, but you had multiple opportunities to ensure you could get in, and you didn't do it.
Mhm.
So,
I agree, but Penn State fans will be happy at least.
yeah.
The Heisman. I had Michael Penix as my Heisman the whole year. The Heisman was voted on a couple days ago. Uh, is it fair to say that Jaden Daniels, sorry Ryan, if you see this, our resident LSU fan, is it fair to say he's been the least impressive Heisman winner of the last 20 years, probably?
I can think of some that I think Jaden Daniels was a lot
20 years. So
better
that's
than. So,
2003.
yeah, I mean, the only one that really comes to mind is like Jason White, but Oklahoma was
Yeah.
undefeated that
Yeah.
year,
So
and
he's
like,
better. Yeah. I'll give him
yeah,
Jason
and
White.
like Troy
Congratulations. You're
Smith,
better than
like
Troy Smith went to the
Troy
national
Smith,
championship.
yeah, he won the national title. There normally the Heisman is, I don't know, the past few years to me it's kind of not been like boring. I wouldn't say like the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but I haven't watched
But
it.
I feel
I
like
don't know if you,
this is a year that it shouldn't have been boring, in my opinion.
yeah,
You had Michael Penix, who's been the best player from day one. He was a Heisman
right,
dark horse at the beginning of the season. He had comparable stats to Jaden Daniels. I'll give it. Jaden Daniels had a little bit better stats. Mind you, he was pat statting against Georgia State, right?
and they had a bunch of games
It
where they were
playing
like
starters in the
having to win
fourth.
like 56-49,
Yeah,
like
yeah. Michael Penix didn't play the last quarter against Boise. He could have got two more
right,
touchdowns against that defense at that point. Like,
right.
that's what I don't get. Michael Penix had bigger wins. Did Jaden Daniels have a signature win? He didn't have a signature win or a signature moment, in my opinion. Even
No, he
Caleb
lost the
Williams, you could call his Notre Dame performance his signature moment. Caleb Williams. You could call Lamar hurdling over Syracuse or even that crazy loss to Clemson. Like, those were his moments.
yeah,
Like, what was his moment? His moment could have been beating Ole Miss if he would have beat Ole Miss, but he didn't. And I
right.
don't want to hear but his defense. Like, if you're the Heisman, where's your moment? I digress. I'll let you talk. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
upset.
didn't
I needed Michael Penix.
to win. Yeah, I didn't really pay much attention to it because I figured Jaden Daniels was probably gonna win. But yeah, I think it probably should have been. I don't know if Washington's undefeated without Michael Penix. What is LSU 7-5 instead of 9-3 without Jaden Daniels? Like
Yeah, they
they
just get
still like
the.
with Jaden Daniels, they didn't beat the three best teams they played. So
Mhm. Yeah, that was my whole argument. Was like you had three chances. Although speaking of Florida State fans again, Florida State fans were drinking cups of yappuccinos, saying, "Well, if Jordan Travis, if your thing is that if we don't make the playoffs because Jordan Travis didn't get hurt, why isn't he the Heisman?" Settle down, Florida State fans. Like, like, just settle down. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like I'll accept Jane Daniels. Like he's solid. Like I don't want to get anything wrong. I think he did. I'm not upset that Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. I'm upset
yeah,
that Michael Penix didn't win the Heisman because I think Michael Penix,
fair enough.
my opinion, more deserving. So that's what I
Fair
do.
enough.
Also, Bo Nix' wife. I feel like that shocked the internet. No, like man, this guy is a grown man. He needs to get a job. This guy has a wife.
Speaking okay, yes. But speaking of Bo Nix, whoever the cameraman on ESPN was that put a 30-minute video of him at the end of that Washington game just sitting there sad needs to be put in jail
Yep, yep.
yesterday.
Just the towel.
That thing lasted
Oh
for like
my.
10 minutes. It just kept showing him. I was like, this
What's
poor
worse,
dude.
that?
Like
What's that? What's worse, that or the Ryan Day walk of shame in the big house?
the at least the walk of shame was like 40. Like there was an end to be seen with that. The Bo Nix one, it just kept showing him like being like he didn't get to
Oh
like
my
I
goodness.
don't know what he's gonna do in the NFL, but like he like said multiple times like he wanted to win a or a national championship,
Mhm.
specifically at Auburn. That all went to hell. He gets to Oregon and Oregon can never. They were 10-point favorites and they couldn't
Yep.
get it done.
Well, speaking of that, I think that perfectly segues into this next one because the word on the street. I mean, transfer NIL is getting in full effect, and I guess getting into Oregon. There's a rumor that like Phil Knight is like getting like antsy for a national championship before he dies, and is essentially bankrolling the entire NIL collective at Oregon. So that's
Well,
just one thing to keep in mind, and that's why, sorry, Sooner Nation, you got Dylan Gabriel at Oregon now. Shoot, I mean, Taylon Green's at Arkansas. That's not just a homer pick. That's getting like SEC, just regular news traction. I mean, Cam Ward has been projected certain places like uh, Miami or USC. Funniest
we
transfer so far: Tyler Van Dyke to Wisconsin. They got rid of Graham Mertz for older Graham Mertz. So
did you see?
congratulations, Badgers.
Speaking of Miami and Cam Ward and Tyler Van Dyke, known Kane superfan Danny Boy Kane, when asked about by Big Cat what he should expect, he said,
Yeah.
Tyler Van Dyke can play really well. When he's good, it's great. Something like it. When he's good, he plays well. But when he's bad, he does not play well. Something like that. And also has a source that heard from sources that Cam Ward will be going to Miami.
I love Danny Boy Kane. That honestly might be like a white whale interview, like guest. Just
Getting
like
Danny
getting
Boy
to talk to him for 10 minutes.
and ask him
I
about
just
the offensive why he turned down the offensive
yes,
coordinator
why he
position.
turned down the offensive coordinator position at Miami. But I guess speaking of Miami too, the coaching train, Manny Diaz is at Duke now.
Mm-hmm.
Boise State filled their position. There's still a couple. Who else filled their position? Nevada filled their position. Uh, Houston filled their position with the Tulane coach. There's some movement this offseason.
There
A
is,
lot of
and
movement.
I'm interested to see what I mean. Maybe I don't know. I think I was thinking about maybe that Michigan job coming open, but I almost think now that if that does come open, that who is the
They'll just
guy
give it
who?
to the intern. The
Yeah,
freaking love you, man.
yeah, that guy. I
That's
was
my
like
coach,
thinking
man.
about that, and I was like, oh, they'll just probably give it to him because I don't see anyone else that they would like really go out and get right now that
Yeah.
made a ton of sense. So yeah,
So
that's all kind of.
I pose a hypothetical coaching question now that we're on the topic. I was talking to my dad about this. Would you fire Ryan Day for Mike Vrabel if you're Ohio State?
I
Vrabel's
think
never recruited, but he's proven it. It's a. I mean, who? Like I said, who says like Vrabel like wants to go to college? Because if you're good in the NFL, it is a, I would say a less full time job. You actually get a true off season with no recruiting.
yeah.
So that being in mind, who said he even wants to go to college? But I'll tell you what, Mike Vrabel at Ohio State, Lou Holtz wouldn't be calling you soft with Mike Vrabel. I'll tell you that
No,
much.
I honestly do think with Ryan Day, if he doesn't beat Michigan this next year, like, yeah, they might make the playoff, and I
Well, with
guess we could see
okay,
what happens
I
with
think
that. But
I think a national championship win can also like take care of it. A
oh yeah,
Michigan win or a
absolutely.
Natty
But if he loses, like next year, if they are 11-0 again, lose to Michigan, and then like win that first playoff game but lose the next one, I honestly think he might be gone because
Ohio State fans are almost like the Chiefs fans of college. Like they are just so spoiled to a point. These fools chased Kyle McCord out of town.
they did.
Yes, I said bad things about Kyle McCord, but if he was my quarterback, I'd be okay with it. He's a
And it's
freshman.
his first year starting. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's not like he's like a junior. Like I would almost get it then, but it's his first year. Like
yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting. Transfer portal's interesting. Last thing about the transfer portal and recruiting, Dylan Raiola, crystal ball to Nebraska now instead of Georgia.
that kid's
Zooch,
annoying.
your thoughts?
I just don't like. I somewhat
Dylan,
understand if Carson Beck was a true freshman, but he like if he's good again next year, he's going to go to the NFL. So you might be sitting behind him 1 year or two. In worst case, you're going to be starting as a redshirt freshman or a redshirt sophomore. Like
yeah,
at
it's
Georgia,
weird.
you're going to Nebraska where
Hey,
I don't
Matt
know. It's
Rule
like
though, he's a
what
good
his
coach. He's a good
he
coach.
is, but I would have trust issues if I was Nebraska and he had committed to like 4 schools over the past 7 days. I know it's been
That's my
longer than
thing. So
that, but
for those of you who don't know, Dylan Raiola is the top QB prospect in the nation. Uh, out of Buford, Georgia, but he's not really from Buford, Georgia, because he used to live in Arizona and went to school there. So he's been to 3 high schools in his high school career, 2 in Arizona, and then he transferred to the best school in Georgia for a senior year. And he's been committed to schools. This is his 3rd school that he's verbally committed to, or crystal balled to. So take that with what you will. Like I said, when you're the number one, when you are a high rated recruit, you can kind of be a little more of a diva. I have a gut feeling that he might, if he goes to Nebraska. That's why I think that Georgia would have been a much better decision for him, because he could sit back a year, almost like go against Georgia's talent, probably be humbled a little bit, right? Like go against some good talent, and then come in and kick butt your 2nd year, kind of like the Quinn Ewers strategy. I mean,
Yeah.
he sat out at Ohio State and then came to Texas, but I think that really helped Quinn Ewers. Like, man, I'm the best QB in the country, but I got to sit out. Like, man, this is really. I'm taking a look at myself, and I'm getting better. I think that could have helped Dylan Raiola, but I'm afraid is going to happen. Is that he's going to start for Nebraska early. He's going to do okay, right? And it's just going to be up and down, and he's not going to like develop because he's not going to have to. I don't know. His ceiling is probably like a Heisman candidate. This guy, from what all the recruiters say, is he's one of the best high school prospects that there's been in the history of 24/7 recruiting. But also, I feel like his floor is just Tate Martell 2.0. If I'm being completely honest
Yeah.
with you, just an absolute head case who's going to transfer 3 times, and then in 5 years we're going to go, holy shit, this guy's playing on Jacksonville State. Like, what the hell?
Right.
Like,
He might have a JT Daniels situation.
Man, dude, that breaks my heart, man. I was on the JT train. I was all aboard the JT train for a while and just couldn't have it done, man. Couldn't get it done, but that's the way she goes, right? It's the way she goes. Uh, the New Year's Six matchups. This is looking forward now. Enough with past talk. Let's get to looking forward. New Year's Six matchups. Let's quickly, if I can, I'm gonna pull up the. Let's pull up if I can. Come on, Diego, do something, man. But pull up the graphic of the matchups this year, and what matchup sticks out to you, or just what are some things that stick out to the matchups? Because I got one for me.
On the non-New Year, like non-playoff ones, right?
Anyone,
Or
non-playoff,
anyone?
playoff. What's the
The one that
first?
sticks out the most to me is like almost it's not a must win because they're a great program, but Michigan cannot get rolled over by Alabama.
Yeah, I totally agree. Michigan cannot get rolled by Alabama. Actually, I have 2 things that stick out. One, I feel like the Cotton Bowl has the storyline of Missouri is playing like it's their Super Bowl, and Ohio State's going to have half their team sitting out, and Missouri is going to like play them tough when they really shouldn't. That's first thing that's out. Second thing is, do we think Liberty's even going to sell out their allotment of tickets?
Possibly, but they might all be gone by. That's either Oregon wins like 56-14, or Liberty. It's like a Tulane USC situation from last year.
I can see that happening. I can definitely see that happening. But Liberty, man, they had the weakest schedule in the nation. I guess we're gonna see how they do versus. We'll see how they do versus Oregon. But I feel like you said, that could be a Oregon Kansas State type Fiesta game where someone just takes it off. The calling. Oh man. Okay.
That
Over under that they show that clip.
Oh, 100% they'll show that. The funniest part about that game was the beginning when D'Anthony Thomas just houses it and makes everyone on
Yes.
Kansas State look like they're in mud, and it just shows like the slightly over middle-aged guy, Kansas State fan, who's just sitting there like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is another thing I'm gonna miss about the Pac-12 dying. Because yes, the Pac-12 maybe they never had like national contending teams. You can bet their ass that they were the like next like tier teams that would just beat up on like the Cinderella story Iowa or the
yeah.
Cinderella story Oklahoma State, who just be like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then you just get like a Pete Carroll USC team in the Rose Bowl, be like, nope, we're gonna smash you because we're pissed we're not
Illinois
playing
hadn't
for
been
a
the
natty.
same. Illinois has not
Yes.
been the same since they beat them like 49-10 in the Rose Bowl.
Yes, Brian Cushing was just having his way with the fight in Illinois. But we're going to talk about something now that we really haven't talked about all year, and we're just going to quickly touch up on it. And it's why I have my banner, RIP Jason Eck, little FCS Playoff Ball, little football championship series, little Division One AA. There was actually, did you watch the Montana game? Was awesome. It was so crazy.
I've watched
It
part
was
of that
insane.
one, and I watched the end of the Idaho game the other day just to.
The Idaho game was so sad. RIP Jason Eck. He loses that, and then he loses his two best players in the portal. Can't win them all in Moscow, but I also do love. I think Idaho being good, even as a Boise fan, I like it. I like it,
Yeah,
and Boise fans don't want to hear this. I side with the Vandal fans that the only FCS team that we should play, or at least one of the only ones, is Idaho.
yeah, it'd be
I
fun.
think Boise, it would be fun. You have all the bargaining power because you could be like, we're never playing in Moscow. So if you want to play us, you have to come to Boise. I'm sure the Vandal fans would be like, or U of I would go, yeah, just give us a little bit more tickets and we're in. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that could happen. But yeah, the FCS playoffs. Let me add this to the stage. Can you see that all right, Zooch?
pretty much. Yeah, it looks like Montana, North Dakota State, who did lose their coach or are losing their
Yes.
coach to USC for like a associate head
That
coaching
is,
role. It's
isn't that
weird.
crazy that the head coach of North Dakota State is leaving for the linebackers coach job at USC?
Yeah, it's
Money talks, and that's like not NIL money. That's just like that is like that really makes you take a step back and realize, damn, there's levels to this. Like
oh
there
yeah,
really are levels to this, and I don't blame him. Maybe he felt like that coach accomplished all he wanted to accomplish at North Dakota State, and was like, I want to live in Southern California, way less stress, and I can still work my way up to a D coordinator or head coach job if I want to anyway. But
right.
yeah, we got South Dakota State, Albany, North Dakota State, Montana. I'm liking the way the Grizz are playing. I did watch a couple of their games during the year. Their coach is kind of a weirdo though. Have you seen his interviews? It's like he's a robot. I don't know who that
Well,
guy is, but
he
he
was
ends
their
everything with "Go
coach.
Grizz." He feels like "Go Grizz." It's like, dude, what?
He was
Like, relax.
their coach a while back, and then went to UNLV and won like 3 games in 4 years, and now he's back at Montana.
Dang. So that guy, wait, so Montana, the state of Montana is just a revolving door for Nevada because now Jeff
Yeah,
Choate is at Nevada, who was at
yeah,
Montana
exactly.
State.
He's oh, what is that guy's? I cannot think of that coach's name, but I gotta look it up because his record at UNLV was so bad. I was looking at this the other day because I was like wondering about UNLV coach Bobby Hawk. That's his name. So
Yeah, Bobby.
he at UNLV. Okay, he won more games than I thought, but he was there 5 years and won 2 games, 2 games, 2 games, 7 games, 2 games, and had
That is
an 11
so
loss,
sad.
a 10 and 11 loss season in 4 of his 5 years. So he went 15
Hey,
and
that'll get you
49,
fired.
15 and 49 there, and he is 128
Yeah,
and 35 at
he's
Montana. So,
he's killing it at Missoula, man. That's the kind of guy. Did you see him when his long snapper like messed up a snap? He grabbed him in like by the thing. And he's like, "Rawr," and like you see the camera just cut right away because it's like they did not want to show what obscenities are gonna get yelled at this. But this is the one that makes me sad every year. Where is it? Sacramento State, man. I got him every year. Shout out Dreg. That's my pick every single year for the FCS. They're a solid program, man. I just wish Sacramento State could win one. But the last thing I'm going to touch on for FCS ball is they're oh shoot. How about that? All right, we got the layout situated. Tim Plow's at Davis now. He's gonna
he
bring.
is.
I saw the UC Davis video, and I have my opinions of Tim Plow being like, man, this guy's kind of a goober. I don't know if he's a good coach. Like, I don't like. I'm not completely sold. I did appreciate how much passion he has for UC Davis. There is
He
not a
loved it.
man in this country who has more passion for UC Davis than Tim Plow. And honestly, the resources Davis has, just that passion alone will probably carry you into the FCS playoff. Might not win you a natty. you might need to actually know a little bit of scheme and stuff and gameplay. But man, that guy loves Davis, and I gotta respect it, man. He really does just live for Aggie football.
I'm gonna be keeping up with him to see how he does.
I will be too. All right, well, that's it for the kind of topics. We're gonna get into the meme matchup, which only one game last week, and it was a meme matchup. That was the Army Navy game. How that was something else, man. The overhit. I
The
just
overdid it.
I saw that trending. The overhit, the self safety, and it's always so funny, like watching that game with someone who hasn't like played football or doesn't like understand it. They think it's like watching molasses dry, and I think it's the funniest thing ever. Like when you like watch a guard pull, but then just get their like absolute head knocked in because like for some reason the middle linebacker and the guard weigh the same because it's Army and the linemen don't weigh over 260 pounds. Like it's just the best.
It was. I'll never forget because for years Navy won like 15 in a row or something. Do you remember
hmm
a few years ago
Yeah,
when
with
Army
that one
finally
like,
won?
yep,
And they were like, it was legitimately their Super Bowl in the press box. Like, we finally did it.
yeah. Army's been a little of a roll now. Navy hasn't, and what I the national media doesn't want to say this because I think this is where an East Coast bias comes in. Air Force could kick the crap out of both these teams. Air Force is the best service academy when it comes to actually playing. And Air Force is the only one that runs like the most true triple option. I
Yeah.
saw the Navy and Army were not running the triple option. They were running a handoff offense. That's what I'll
Right.
call that. There was no option or anything. And shoot, Navy was in shotgun. I don't want to see Navy in shotgun.
No.
Where's the triple option? Where's the guards pulling? Air Force could kick both these teams' ass, even though Army beat Air Force this year. So
8 turnovers or whatever it was. Air Force. It was a
that
rough
was
year
so
to the
funny.
end for the Falcons.
It was
Rough end to the year.
yeah, but yeah. Well, speaking of the Falcons, there might be a little sneak peek of what we're gonna bring back for the first time in weeks to end the show. We are doing high, low, Buffalo of non-New Year's Six bowl games. So Zooch and I have both decided to, and we came up with a high, a good bowl game, a low, what we think is going to be a terrible game. In Buffalo, oh, who knows? Maybe it's good for a bad way. Maybe there's a nice little storyline in it. But high, low Buffalo for the people who haven't. Did I? Oh, I really hope I spelled Buffalo right. I'm not a good speller. Did I spell Buffalo
Yeah.
right?
We're
Oh,
good. We're
thank
good.
goodness. Thank goodness. We would have had to cut there if I didn't spell that right. But my high, so what I think is going to be the best non-New Year's Six bowl game is the Alamo Bowl,
Oh, mine
Arizona,
too.
Oklahoma. I thought that was pretty obvious. I think it's Oklahoma. Your quarterback's gone, so you're seeing who you have because they got a pretty talented young guy, right? Who's
Yeah,
a
I think that's
backup.
part of the reason Gabriel left is they like wanted it was either going to be Gabriel for one more year or that guy was just going to straight up leave, and they were like kind of forced Dylan Gabriel out.
Huh, that makes sense. That makes me understand his decision a little bit more. But you have that guy who's kind of playing to prove himself. Like they chose him over Dylan Gabriel. You have Arizona, a program that hasn't had a lot of football success. This you might as well have this game be a New Year's Six for them. The Alamo Bowl is already kind of like that. If they ever were to make it a New Year's Seven, or they would add the Alamo Bowl. The Alamo
Yeah,
Bowl is historically the best non New Year's Six game. But you have Arizona, who's played sneaky. I don't think a lot of people in the country have seen this team play. It'll be a great chance for them to get some national exposure. I think this is going to be a good game. I think Venables is having a lot to prove because I think if he wins the Alamo Bowl, there will be some off-season storylines that will be quelled probably because he could go, hey, I was left with a shit show after Lincoln Riley left, and we've made
right.
improvement every year. We're going to go to the SEC next year and continue taking that step. So, yeah, I have the Alamo Bowl. I thought it was a pretty obvious pick, and it's proven because you picked it as well.
Yep.
All right.
So, do you want me to go first with my low?
Yeah, because I'm already laughing at mine, man.
Okay, my low, and I looked this up to make sure I had everything right on it, is, and about 7 people are going to watch this game, New Mexico State versus Fresno State in the New Mexico Bowl.
Yes. Now, is this bad because you think it's going to be a bad game, or is it, man, if I was a college student and it was either, I also saw this. This is. I really hope this isn't your Buffalo Bowl, but is the Hawaii Bowl your Buffalo Bowl or no?
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that later then. But because I was gonna make some comparisons, but is that game bad because the teams are bad, or because man, I have to go to Albuquerque, New Mexico for a week and play New Mexico State, what essentially is a home game for them?
It's bad for a multitude of reasons. One, it's just like I don't know. Like I feel like when it comes to bowl games, unless maybe you're a freshman and it's your first time getting to play, or you're a senior and it's your last game. Which, granted, this one I will say I was like close because that one's on a not too bad of a date. It's like one of the it's on the first day of bowl games. When you really get into
You know what? I
like
have the
Bowling Green, Minnesota is the day after Christmas, and that one is just one of those that it's like, I mean, for Bowling Green, I guess you get to play Minnesota, but Minnesota's 5-7. It's not like it's those day after Christmas games are just I've had to work them and they
let's
are
see.
just brutal.
Let's see this. Day after Christmas. Oh, like the Quick Lane Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, the First Responder Bowl. Oh,
Yeah, those are
oh,
bad
the
just because
Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Oh, isn't
you're
that pretty
missing.
much like the new Cactus Bowl? And you were at the
I think
Cactus
so.
Bowl. You were
Yeah,
you were
and it's
not. Yeah,
well,
was not the
we were
most
playing a
fun bowl
six
game
and
that you
six.
went to at. Yeah,
No, you're playing a 6-6 Baylor who lost their coach. Like to me, people didn't want to be there. Like it's and like you can get that a little bit where like the Hawaii Bowl. Like sometimes I feel like teams look at it as just a like, oh, we get to go to Hawaii. Like who cares if we
my
win or
advice for
lose? But
anyone going to the Hawaii Bowl: do not pull a Joe Southwick. There are bathrooms everywhere on the island.
there are, especially when you're working for the team. It's your first bowl game, and the night before you're like, oh, I didn't expect bowl games to be like this with coaches out drinking and not taking this seriously, and you aren't 21, so you can't really go out with anyone. So you wake up kind of early the next morning. You're like, okay, well, I guess our quarterback pissed off a balcony last night. Thank you, ESPN header thing on your iPhone notification. Didn't know that happened.
When that comes in, what is like? Do you just go like, "Oh, gee"?
I rolled over in the bed and I was like, because the guys who I was rooming with were 21, so they had been out the night before. And I was like, I wasn't going to be the guy who's like, oh no, stay here and do stuff with me because I didn't want to be that guy. I was like, no, you guys go out. Like, I'll hang around the hotel. Like, we were right on Waikiki Beach. I was like, I'll walk around there to see if there's anything cool to do. Like, maybe go to the water. And I rolled over and I was like, this is saying that our Joe pissed off the balcony. This man who I just seen in the Albertsons library 3 days ago just pissed off the balcony. What shenanigans happened? What went on last night?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. My low is the Armed Forces Bowl. It's Air Force versus JMU. JMU doesn't have their coach or quarterback, and I segmented that because it's the same situation that Boise was in the Hawaii Bowl when Chris Peterson left and a lot of the staff left. I'm thinking that JMU might it's JMU. It might be a little chaos unless the interim can get there. And you got Air Force, a team that, like you said, has kind of like biffed its way to the finish line here, and it's kind of stumbled across. And yeah, I think it's gonna be funny. This is a game that's at TCU Stadium, I think. So like you're playing at a college, so you don't really get like the pro stadium experience. So all that I think's funny. My Buffalo game is a game that I think there are some intriguing storylines too that I think a lot of people are overlooking, but it's Louisville versus USC.
Yeah,
Louisville,
that's a good one.
team that lost ACC. This is kind of like this is a prove it game. If they beat USC, then they could be like the man. We had a solid year. Maybe a couple of hits here or there, and we could have gone to a New Year's Six. And a loss here is like, nah, you guys were flukes the whole year. Like that Notre Dame win, you were riding on the whole time. And if you're USC, you got two young quarterbacks who you got a chance to test out now. Caleb Williams is sitting out. There's going to be a lot of guys sitting out. You had a top recruiting class. Now you can play freshmen and not burn their red shirt. So you can choose to play a lot of young guys and see what they're about. It's the Holiday Bowl. It's in San Diego. So like you said, it's one of those bowls that should be a fun time. San Diego's a fun city. But we both talked about this. For USC to be successful, they need an upper class quarterback from Southern California.
Yes.
That is the only way that USC succeeds. It's tried and true. Matt Leinart, Sam Darnold. I mean, you can even go UCLA. Josh Rosen went to St. John Bosco. If you are a Los Angeles school, just only recruit upper class kids from the LA and Orange County area. And they have one. They have this kid named Moss. Oh my gosh, I'm mind blanking on his name right now. Is it Moss?
Well, that sounds familiar. We were looking at him.
Moss Miller or Miller
Yeah.
Moss. Miller Moss from Mission Viejo. He fits the bill, baby, and he's a beast. He was like a 4 or 5 star coming out. I think he's like a sophomore or junior. And they also have this kid, Malachi Nelson, 5-star coming out from Southern California, too. I think either of these guys could be, I don't know if they're upper class or not. That's kind of the stereotype. But they're both good quarterbacks from the Southern California area that I think USC should go with. I don't think USC needs to pick up a transfer because I think if they do pick up the transfer, they're going to lose both of these guys.
Yeah.
So I think you pick one, and the other one, if he transfers, he transfers. But yeah, that's my Buffalo Bowl. Holiday Bowl.
Mine, and I'm very much looking forward to this matchup. I will not be working, and it is going to be Moonball Milton versus the Iowa defense in the campingworld.com Bowl.
Oh boy.
It is going to be.
I'm speechless.
It's going to be hilarious.
Can you imagine Tennessee fans and Iowa fans having to interact?
It's going to be great.
Where is that bowl?
It's in Orlando.
Oh, they're going to be partying. I mean, you already know this is going to. There's going to be a lot of people going to Disneyland the day before. Oh, Disneyland! It's the Vince McMahon meme of smelling money because Iowa and Tennessee are going to Orlando.
I can just see an Iowa family right now, like middle class Iowa family, making husband, wife, maybe an uncle and aunt and the cousins and the original family's kids all wearing Iowa gear on the Tower of Terror and that being posted on the Facebook. Like, trip didn't go as planned. Iowa offense is still the same, but we got to experience Disney and the Tower of Terror and Orlando.
Animal Kingdom was a blast.
Maybe a picture at the Rainforest Cafe, stuff like that.
Maybe a picture of Minnie Mouse like holding the Buckeye logo or something with like some freaks like forcing like her to hold it. Like Goofy in the background or something.
Something like that will happen. But yeah, it's almost bowl season, and the nice thing about bowl season is at like 2 or 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, there's a random college football game, and we got to enjoy it because we aren't going to have it again for 9 months. So
we aren't going to really have that like experience until college basketball season. So
yeah,
like just being able to watch like games like March Madness like midweek. But yeah, that's it. That's it for us. Zooch, you got anything else?
Nothing else. Just watch the bowl games, and we'll be back soon. I don't think we have a set date, but we will be back.
There will be an episode sometime next week, so we can get an episode out pre New Year's 6 games and pre playoff games to go way more in depth on those. The week following probably will be a show, but it probably won't be a regular midweek show. It might be later in the week. Would you say, Zooch?
Probably,
week after New Year's. But yeah, and then we'll probably have a show after the national championship. But for off-season content, yeah, just a heads up, will not be as often as 1 week. But as you guys know, recruitment cycle never stops, storylines never stop, so we will never stop posting. No, I'm just kidding. Our posting is going to slow down a little bit. We'll probably go from every week to every 2 or 3 weeks, but there will still be college football content mixed in with some college basketball content. So excited for that. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.